Hello there, my name is Jasom Jensai. Welcome to Star Wars Duels. This episode will be Ahsoka Tano versus Asajj Ventress. This will be specifically Ahsoka from Season 5 of the Clone Wars and Ventress from Season 3. These are the two seasons where they are each portrayed by their respective orders. This episode was suggested by Black Meliodas, who actually has his own channel. He compares the power levels of various anime characters. If that sounds interesting, make sure to check it out. I left a link in the description for you. If you've never seen an episode of Star Wars Duels before, this is how it's going to work. I'll start by analyzing each combatant's physical skills, then their force abilities, and finally their tactics. After the analysis, I'll describe a potential duel scenario. The battlefield for that duel will be the plains of Lothal. Ventress and Ahsoka were two prominent warriors during the Clone Wars. Ahsoka was on the Republic side, though eventually she abandoned the Jedi and the Republic. Ventress fought with the Separatists, though eventually Dooku betrayed her and she no longer served the Separatists. They were both rejected apprentices who fought in Clone Wars before going their own way. Ahsoka was only a Padawan, but despite that, she was very talented. Soon after becoming a Padawan, Ahsoka takes on the infamous Jedi killer General Grievous. She is immediately knocked aside and barely recovers in time to save Captain Rex. For the rest of the fight, she is running and hiding. However, the fact that she survived an encounter with General Grievous at such a young age is extremely impressive. Later in the war, much closer to the time I am analyzing Ahsoka at, she takes on Grievous again. Ahsoka and a group of younglings were stranded on the pirate planet of Fulero. Just as they are about to escape, Grievous confronts them. Ahsoka buys some time for the younglings by fighting Grievous. Though she relies heavily on her agility to keep her in the fight, she demonstrates incredible skill in this fight. Much like her fight with Vader later in life, Ahsoka is clearly not as powerful as her opponent, but she is still able to put up a great fight. Ahsoka has also taken on pirates, bounty hunters, and even Mandalorians. Early in the war, Ahsoka has visions of Padme being assassinated by Aurra Sing. Thanks to her visions, Ahsoka is able to stop Aurra Sing from assassinating Padme. Aurra responds by firing her twin blasters incredibly fast. Though a bolt gets through Ahsoka's guard and strikes her shoulder, Ahsoka's blaster deflection is remarkable for her age. Just before Ahsoka leaves the Order, Ahsoka demonstrates an even greater level of blaster deflection. Clones and gunships hunt her down and fire their blasters at her. Though the blasters are set to stun, Ahsoka manages to block hundreds of shots and eventually even escapes into the depths of Coruscant. This is one of the most impressive displays of acrobatics, skill, and agility we see from Ahsoka. Midway through the war, Ahsoka and Lux Bonteri are in a Death Watch camp. Death Watch begins mercilessly killing people of a small village, so Ahsoka decides to fight back. Though she is captured, she is able to take out a few Mandalorians before being overwhelmed. Before she is executed, R2 distracts everyone and gives Ahsoka's lightsabers to her. Ahsoka then takes on Pre Vizsla. She fights admirably and is able to land a hit on Vizsla. Though she ran away before surely beating Vizsla, it is likely that Vizsla would have been defeated without his jetpack. After the second battle of Geonosis, Barriss and Ahsoka's ship is infected by Geonosian brainworms. Barriss gets infected and the two Jedi have a duel. Ahsoka runs away from Barriss because she does not want to hurt her, but Barriss eventually tracks Ahsoka down and they have a duel on the bridge. Ahsoka is able to defeat Barriss without killing her, though Barriss was slowed down by the Geonosian's hatred of cold. Just before she is caught and put on trial, Ahsoka has a duel with Barriss. Again, this fight comes with many caveats. For one, Barriss seems to have certain parts of the terrain planned out. The most notable example of this is here, when Barriss flees up one story and with one kick sends several barrels dropping down toward Ahsoka. What truly solidifies the fight is less obviously set up, but I still think it was planned. Barriss slashes a gas tank, catching Ahsoka off guard with plumes of gas. Before Ahsoka can react, Barriss launches scraps of metal which spark in the ground and create an explosion. Ahsoka barely gets behind cover, but she's still injured. However, Barriss is completely unarmed. She likely had a barrier to take cover behind pre-planned. Arguably more important than the terrain is the tactics. Barriss is wielding Ventress' signature twin red lightsabers. She's wearing Darth clothing and Ventress' new mask. Ahsoka understandably mistakes Barriss for Ventress, but the two have very different styles. While both are quick fighters with lots of precision, Barriss has a more grounded style, while Ventress relies on speed and creativity. Ahsoka is fighting as though against Ventress, but her tactics backfire because she's actually fighting against Barriss. Ahsoka is not known for her strength, but she has some notable strength feats. She is able to stop the attack of a Trandoshan and later break his grip. Furthermore, she is able to match Grievous' strength. Much of this comes down to leverage, especially in the case of the Trandoshan, but her strength should not be underestimated. Taking a step back and looking at all these duels, we see that Ahsoka is a quick fighter. She's very agile and keeps a steady flow of attacks coming. Her strength is a weakness, but it's not a game over. Ventress is also a quick fighter. In her duel with Luminara, she is called out for her sloppy version of Form 2. Under Count Dooku, Ventress learned to use careful precision to throw off her opponents while maintaining a strong center of balance. Though she never truly rivaled her master, her precision helps emphasize her speed. In her duel with Luminara, Ventress's main advantage was her speed. Though Luminara was able to keep up with relatively little trouble for the most part, Ventress eventually landed a kick and sent Luminara tumbling to the ground. After taking advantage of this, she nearly kills Luminara, but Ahsoka shows up. So yes, Ahsoka and Ventress have dueled. However, this does not mean the video is pointless. Firstly, I'm discussing Ahsoka from Season 5 versus Ventress from Season 3. Both duelists have progressed a lot since Season 1. But most importantly, it was not a one-on-one battle. Luminara was with Ahsoka, and if that wasn't enough, the fight was inconclusive. Ventress ran away before either side managed to get the upper hand. Some of you might also know of their second duel together. This one takes place during Season 5 with the Clone Wars. Ventress clearly won this one, and neither opponent had any aid. However, yet again, it's not conclusive. While I'm analyzing Ahsoka from Season 5, I'm analyzing Ventress from Season 3. But the big reason this is not a clear answer is because Ventress only takes Ahsoka out by catching her by surprise. So back to where I left off. Ventress is able to take on Luminara, but when Ahsoka shows up, she is unable to take on them both. Though she didn't outright lose, I cannot see her taking out either Jedi without getting them alone. One of Ventress's first duels we see is against Anakin and Obi-Wan. She does a lot of retreating in their duel, but even still, it takes speed to keep up with Anakin and Obi-Wan. Later, during the Battle of Kamino, Ventress takes on just Skywalker. After stealing the Fett DNA, Anakin shows up to try and get it back. Ventress is quickly pushed back by Anakin's superior strength, but she is able to keep up. After a few minutes of dueling, Anakin lands a definitive kick, knocking Ventress to the ground. Anakin force pulls the Fett DNA from Ventress's belt. While he's still holding it and going one-handed, Ventress takes him out with a flurry of attacks. Before she can reacquire the Fett DNA though, several clones arrive and she is forced to retreat. Immediately after she is betrayed by Dooku, she is once more confronted by Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Ventress, you're not looking well.
She never does.
She fights with speed and ferocity, but is ultimately outmatched. She lands a kick to Obi-Wan, which drops him for several seconds, but I attribute that mostly to luck. I'm not surprised she landed a kick to Obi-Wan, as his defenses in that area aren't the best, but his toughness is incredible, so being out for several seconds after one kick seems strange. In their duel, Ventress would take a few steps back before attacking Anakin or Obi-Wan, but retreating before she can be pinned down. However, she is eventually cornered and Kenobi lands a kick. She loses a lightsaber and before long, her other one is knocked from her hands as well, and the Jedi are holding her at saber point. Despite losing, this is one of Ventress's most impressive duels. In my opinion, her most impressive duel is her three-way duel with Dooku and Savage. That duel begins with Savage on her side. Though Savage was not much of a help, especially when Dooku began utilizing his Force Lightning, there is one exception. Dooku avoided every single one of Savage's strikes except for one. That single strike was strong enough to disarm Dooku. Even disarmed, Dooku was able to survive against Ventress for several seconds, though he did have the help of Savage getting in the way every few seconds. Ventress herself performed very well against Dooku. Dooku repeatedly landed kicks to Ventress, but he never landed a lightsaber strike. After Savage broke out of the Night Sister's mind trap, Dooku fled. Ventress was able to follow him, but Savage was too slow. Dooku and Ventress had a one-on-one battle then. Despite starting on the defensive, Dooku very quickly took control, forcing Ventress into a half retreat. Eventually, Dooku disarmed Ventress, though he did so with the Force rather than with his lightsaber. Like Ahsoka, Ventress is a quick fighter. Thanks to Dooku's training, she has excellent precision and poise. Where Ventress falls short is in her strength. In all of her fights, Anakin is able to overpower her with strength and force her to retreat. Ventress may be quick, but her strength is lacking. Ahsoka and Ventress are pretty similar. Both are quick fighters. Ahsoka is stronger, but Ventress has more precision. Between the two of them, I don't think either one has a significant edge. Ahsoka has a natural talent with the Force. Though it happens well after Season 5, she is able to hold back Maul's ship with the Force during the events following Order 66. While I cannot directly attribute this feat to Ahsoka of Season 5, it is a clear marker of her power. Using the Force outside of battle is one thing, but using it mid-battle is something else entirely. Though she does not use it often, Ahsoka has a very quick push and slash. She was able to knock Grievous backward several meters in her second duel. Her Force defenses were also decent. She was able to block hundreds of shards of glass in her first duel with Barriss. Overall, we don't see much Force powers from Ahsoka until later in life. Despite having natural talent with the Force, she relies mostly on her lightsaber skills. Ventress is not a Force powerhouse, but she has decent speed and precision. When it comes to pure strength, her greatest feat was Force choking both Anakin and Obi-Wan at once, though her hold was broken fairly easily. Obi-Wan has a weak Force pull, but Force choking Anakin is very impressive, let alone Anakin and Obi-Wan at the same time. However, this is one of Ventress's only major feats. When it comes to speed, Ventress is very talented though. In her last 2 duels with Anakin, she lands a Force push as she jumps over him. After Dooku disarms her with the Force, Ventress knocks his killing blow to the side with a quick Force push. The lightsaber hits a gas pipe, which momentarily distracts Dooku and allows Ventress to escape. This last feat demonstrates Ventress's speed and also her precision with the Force. Both Ventress and Ahsoka have speed. Ahsoka demonstrates this with her slash and push technique, while Ventress has demonstrated this in her duels with Anakin. The difference is yet again in precision and strength. However, this time I think Ahsoka's superior strength advantage is enough to earn her the edge when it comes to Force abilities. Tactically is where Ahsoka shows her youth. Ahsoka, especially early in the war, was overconfident and hasty. She often misses the big picture. Though she has certainly developed since her losses at the Battle of Ryloth and at the First Battle of Felucia, she still struggles with taking a step back and assessing the whole situation. In her second duel with Barriss, she should have realized that she was not fighting Ventress and adapted her style. She was extremely predictable. However, in Ahsoka's defense, Barriss knew Ahsoka well enough to take advantage of whatever failing she had, whether that is hesitation, hastiness, or something else. However, their fight does show us the potential failings of Ahsoka's tactics. Ahsoka uses Form 4 primarily. She relies on acrobatics to close the gap between her and her opponents, a gap she needs to close because of her reverse grips. As always, when talking about Ahsoka, I'm going to bring up that she will occasionally use a reverse grip. Having actually tried a reverse grip, I can assure you that it is the worst way to hold the sword-like weapon for most people. Jedi are somewhat of an exception, as their acrobatics can be used to close the distance and negate the reach deficiency. However, the reverse grip offers virtually no advantages in exchange for less strength, less options, less range, and no effective stabs, unless you want to look really dumb, which would negate the only true advantage of reverse grips. Fortunately for Ahsoka, she does not always use reverse grips, and much of the time she only uses a reverse grip with her Shoto blade, which is slightly more acceptable. As I was saying before that, Ahsoka uses Form 4. She incorporates a few kicks into her combat and uses acrobatics to outflank her opponents, retreat from them, or close in on them. Ahsoka has a relentless style that leaves her opponents with no room to breathe, but it also leaves her with little room to breathe. She is forced to keep up a steady offensive because she has very little defense to fall back on. With such an intense style, Ahsoka has little time for Force powers mid-combat. She rarely uses the Force while actively battling. When she does use the Force, it's usually a basic Force push delivered along with a lightsaber slash. Ahsoka's tactics rely heavily on her ability to overwhelm her opponent with her quick lightsaber style. Though the emphasis on her lightsaber offense has made that aspect of her dueling very dangerous, it also leaves her with little options if her opponent can consistently disrupt her flow, or if her opponent can match her lightsaber skills. Ventress has taken much of her style from Dooku. She is willing to retreat and excellent at positioning herself in an advantageous position. However, Ventress is uniquely good at laying traps for her opponents and taking advantage of the environment. In her first duel with Anakin and Obi-Wan, she collapses the floor underneath them in order to stall for time. In her duel with Luminara, Ventress is able to slash a pipe just right to spew gases into Luminara's eye. Though it didn't earn her the victory, it shows off her creativity. Again in her duel with Dooku, Ventress uses a gas pipe to disrupt her opponent and escape. This time she knocked her opponent's lightsaber into the pipe with the Force. Ventress is very creative, but her biggest tactical weakness is focusing too much on simply wearing her opponents down without ever truly finishing them off. Of course, part of that is simply taking on foes who are clearly greater than her, such as Skywalker and Kenobi, or Count Dooku. Ventress is a practitioner of Form 4 and Form 2. Ventress likes to start with the Force-aided leap. This gives her an extra bit of momentum, allowing her to take the offense right away. Ventress will try to defeat her opponents through a combination of speed and precision. After this, Ventress tends to lose momentum quickly due to her lack of strength. When she needs to retreat, Ventress can fall back on her acrobatics again. One of the most notable aspects of her lightsaber combat, though, is her implementation of the Force. Like her master, Ventress is able to quickly and skillfully integrate Force pushes into combat. Just like her Force abilities, Ventress also frequently lands kicks against her opponent. Ventress is a creative combatant. She attacks with her lightsabers, her force abilities, and her feet. She is extremely quick and can be incredibly precise when needed. Ventress wears her opponents down with her indirect tactics, but she struggles to finish them off. Ahsoka and Ventress are tactically opposites in many ways. Though they both utilize the acrobatic style of Form 4, Ahsoka relies on it to swiftly overrun her opponents, while Ventress uses it to escape while she wears her opponents down with her acrobatics, precision, and the Force. Tactically, I favor Ventress. Ahsoka might have the tactical advantage at first, but eventually Ventress's tactics of wearing Ahsoka down would begin to take effect. In addition to her general tactics, Ventress uses more frequent use of the Force than Ahsoka does. This would allow her to put Ahsoka on the defensive, and allow Ventress to pick Ahsoka's defenses apart. Ventress has the tactical advantage. The battlefield for the duel will be the plains of Lothal. This is a very flat, open battlefield. Ahsoka likes to fight with lots of vertical movement, and this is aided when she has things to jump off of, but in a plain landscape like Lothal, she is forced to fight with a more conventional style. While Ventress also makes frequent use of agility, she does so more to retreat than to outflank. Her style is not as diminished as Ahsoka's. On the other hand, Ventress will not be able to make use of the terrain to wear Ahsoka down as effectively as she could in a different location. While it's a fairly neutral battleground, I think Ahsoka would get the advantage from it. Make sure to tell me who you think would lose and why in the comments section. And with that, let's begin the duel. Ahsoka circled her opponent. She held her green lightsaber steadily in a defensive posture. With a scream, Ventress lunged forward. Ahsoka stepped into Ventress's attack, blocking the twin red lightsabers before flipping over Ventress. Ventress ducked under Ahsoka's mid-air slash and rolled away. Ahsoka followed up with a series of quick slashes. Ventress fended off Ahsoka's attacks, occasionally slipping in her own attacks. Finally, Ahsoka landed a kick to Ventress's stomach. Ventress tumbled backward and fell to the ground. Ahsoka leapt towards Ventress, hoping to finish her off, but at the last second, Ventress rolled to the side. Ahsoka hastily adapted to a handspring, but Ventress knocked her arms out from under her with a force push. Ahsoka tumbled to the ground. She landed in a roll and launched herself to her feet just in time to block a series of attacks to her head and her shoulders. Suddenly, Ventress lunged forward, bending towards Ahsoka's head and sweeping her legs out from under her with a kick. Ahsoka launched a force push as she fell to the ground. Ventress was flung backward, but she easily landed on her feet. Ahsoka charged at Ventress, but Ventress leapt in the air. As she landed behind Ahsoka, Ventress launched a force push. Ahsoka stumbled away from Ventress before tripping to the ground. As Ahsoka rose to her feet, Ventress sauntered toward her. Ahsoka calmed her mind and flourished her lightsabers. The two attacked. Ahsoka tried to close in on Ventress, but Ventress was always dancing to the side or flipping overhead, just out of reach. Ventress's longer reach was allowing her to attack Ahsoka without letting Ahsoka get close enough to attack herself. Ahsoka landed a few blows, but she was only keeping up. Ventress landed a kick to Ahsoka's knee. Ahsoka nearly collapsed, but she was able to quickly counterattack. She pushed Ventress back into blade lock. Ahsoka stepped between Ventress's legs and slammed her shoulder into her stomach. Ventress fell into a backwards roll and launched herself to her feet several meters away. Ahsoka dashed after her, but Ventress once more jumped over Ahsoka. This time, Ahsoka was expecting the force push that came as Ventress landed. She crouched low and slid backward. Ventress was already leaping toward her. Ahsoka lifted her lightsabers to defend herself, but Ventress landed a kick to her stomach instead of attacking her. Ahsoka stumbled backward. Ventress continued attacking, and her lead lightsaber struck like vipers. Ahsoka blocked high, knocked a low attack away with her shoulder blade, and jumped back to avoid a crosscut. Ventress attacked again and again. Ahsoka instantly blocked a series of quick strikes to her sides, but Ventress landed a kick to her wrist, sending a lightsaber tumbling to the ground. Ahsoka leapt backward once more, but just as she landed, Ventress knocked her back with a force push. Ventress lunged forward as Ahsoka got to her feet. Ahsoka desperately defended herself, but with only one lightsaber, Ventress was overwhelmed. Ventress left Ahsoka no room for attack. She was slowly pushed backward away from her lightsaber. Ahsoka sidestepped the strike and finally got off an attack. Ventress leaned out of the way and kicked Ahsoka in the knee. This time, Ahsoka's leg collapsed. Ventress's other leg quickly slammed into Ahsoka's face. Ahsoka rolled to her feet, dazed by the attack, but before she could fight back, Ventress's lightsaber flashed across her vision. Ahsoka did very well at the beginning. Her straightforward and aggressive style combined with her physical abilities were able to match Ventress. However, as the fight dragged on, Ventress began to wear Ahsoka down. If Ahsoka could overwhelm Ventress or catch her in a mistake, the fight would end with a quick win for Ahsoka. But I don't think this duel would usually be a quick one. Ventress would likely survive the first few exchanges. After that, I favor Ventress more, though Ahsoka still has a good shot of winning. However, I think this fight wouldn't be a short fight or an average fight. I think it would be a long one, and as time drags on, Ventress would wear Ahsoka down more and more. I don't see Ahsoka winning many scenarios in the long fight. I think Ventress would win 80% of the time overall, but these are just my opinions. Make sure to tell me who you think would win and why in the comments. May the Force be with you.